The Dallas Mavericks need to get Luka Doncic some help. Let's get into this. After being drafted 3rd overall by the Atlanta Hawks and ended up getting traded to the Dallas Mavericks, I think we all know that Luka Doncic is a special player in this league. After Luka's first season, we could all tell that this guy is special, but ever since he's been playing through that first season, we saw this guy improve more and more until this playoffs where he was really playing out of his mind. Last season in the NBA bubble, it was the Dallas Mavericks versus the Los Angeles Clippers, and a lot of people had the Clippers winning the championship that season, so of course the Mavericks were underdogs in that season, or in that series I should say, but Luka Doncic especially really picked his game up, as well as other players like Seth Curry and some other guys they had on their team, and they really made it a series, although they did lose 4-2. But either way, they opened a lot of eyes to what Luka Doncic could potentially be and what the Dallas Mavericks could potentially be going forward. Going into that series against the Clippers in the NBA bubble, we all knew that Luka Doncic was a superstar in this league, and he will be for years to come. But the real question that was answered in that playoff series was not only Luka was going to play extremely well and be a superstar in the regular season, he also was a superstar in the playoffs and in the clutch situations, which is something that was answered in that playoff series, because there are a lot of players that are stars and superstars in this league, but when it comes down to the playoffs and clutch situations, they aren't able to perform as well. But with Luka Doncic, obviously he proved that he's not one of those guys. And after seeing how Luka played and how a lot of the Dallas Mavericks played in that series versus the Clippers, a lot of people were very excited going forward of what the Mavs could potentially show, because in that playoff series, Porzingis wasn't even playing. He got hurt very early in that series, so just imagine when Porzingis came back along with all the other guys on their team and how Luka Doncic was playing. People were very excited to see what they could do in this playoffs. And for the Dallas Mavericks this playoffs, they had the absolute best case scenario possible for them. They had that same first round matchup versus the Los Angeles Clippers that they can now revenge. And now on top of that, after seeing the Clippers blow a 3-1 lead last season, or last playoffs in the bubble, they were much lower expectations for this Clippers team, so a lot of people thought this Clippers team wasn't what we thought it was, and the Mavs had definitely a way better chance of winning this playoff series than they did last year. And not to mention Porzingis was actually healthy in this series, and Luka Doncic would have that help. The first 2 games of that playoff series go by. Away, Clippers are home, they're the higher seed, and boom, the Mavericks are up 2-0, and it's looking very good for them going into that series, or coming out of that second game. They're up 2-0, they're going home. Now they just need to win at least 1 game at home, and now they're up 3-1. They're in a perfect scenario for them. And in the first 2 games, it was all Luka Doncic. He didn't have much help from his guys, especially Porzingis, but Luka Doncic was able to put the team on his back and literally win 2 games by himself on the road. And Porzingis, who was supposed to be the sidekick to Luka Doncic, just wasn't showing up in those initial 2 games. But of course, they won those 2 games, so now they could afford it. They were able to afford Porzingis not playing up to par, and they just needed him to perform at least one of the games at home, so they can potentially win that game and go up 3-1 and win that series. But of course, as we all know now, Porzingis not only did not show up, Luka Doncic didn't have much help from his teammates, and it was literally only Luka Doncic. And unfortunately for the Dallas Mavericks, although it was enough for Luka to go off by himself and win those first 2 games, those next 2 games in Dallas, Kawhi Leonard and the Clippers really started to wake up, and especially Kawhi Leonard started to go off, and now the Clippers were winning those 2 games, and now it was a series again, 2-2. Then the Mavs won the next game. Every game the Mavs won, it was because Luka Doncic went off. It wasn't necessarily due to anybody else on his team. And for the Clippers, it was Kawhi Leonard would go off, and he would also get some help from his other teammates. And it was becoming clear now, of course, the Dallas Mavericks ended up losing that series, and it was being clear now that Luka Doncic just deserves better than this and really needs some help and needs a real sidekick. I think Porzingis, after being injured for those few seasons, I think he had enough of a time frame to really come back and really show what he's able to do. And he does show his capabilities sometimes, but he's just not consistent enough. And I think maybe due to injuries or maybe due to whatever, I just think he's turning himself more into just a catch and shoot guy rather than the Porzingis that he was drafted to be. And I think that's the real issue with Porzingis. And for the Mavericks, either they're going to have to trade this guy and move on from him and try to pick up a real star, or just somehow hope that Porzingis turns into that star that he originally was drafted for. When you watch Porzingis out there now compared to when he was on the New York Knicks, you can see a huge fundamental change. Porzingis now is just camping on that 3-point line, and whenever he gets somewhat of an open look, he just chucks it up without even thinking about it. Or even he chucks up some really deep 3-pointers, which he has the range to hit, of course. But when you're talking about a guy who's 7'3" and has the ability to put the ball on the floor and really get to the basket, you would rather see him do more of that stuff and really show what he's capable of, rather than taking 40-foot three-point shots. The issue with Porzingis, similar to Trae Young in his rookie season, he just falls in love with that three-point shot and that deep three-point shot. What Porzingis really needs to do, maybe it's due to the injury and he's not as capable of doing this as he was in the past. I'm not sure, that's something that he would have to answer. But what he really should do is put the ball on the floor again, get to the basket, use those handles that he has that are very good for his size, and just post up again, do the things that he's not doing in this playoff series. All he's doing is shooting threes. And there's plenty of guys in the NBA that can catch and shoot for you that you don't have to pay a max contract to. And I think the fact that the Mavs are paying Porzingis a max contract makes him very hard to trade, because obviously he's not playing well whatsoever at the moment, and also keeps them tied to Porzingis for a while now, and it puts them in a mess. This just shows why it's so important to really be very selective on who you give a max contract. And if a guy has injury issues, even if he's super talented like Porzingis is, you really have to take that into account and really think about it and think if you really want to give this guy a max contract. Because if he's super injury prone, or if he's not the same player after all those injuries, like it seems like Porzingis is being affected by the injuries and that's why he's not playing as well and only shooting right now, then you're in a huge mess. Because when you give a max contract to one guy, that really takes up a lot of money on your team, and now you can't sign other players to your team and help out a guy like Luka Doncic. Luka Doncic just really needs some help out there and get a second superstar to help him out. When you watch Luka in this playoff series and just in general, you see this guy's a very above average three-point shooter. He can shoot from very deep. He has really good handles to get himself open from that three-point shot, or use his handles to get all the way to the basket. He's very crafty when he gets to the basket with finishes around the basket. And also, one underrated part of Luka Doncic's game that we've really seen in this playoff series versus the Clippers is his footwork and his post ability. We saw very similar to Dirk. He probably worked with Dirk a little bit, even though he's technically a shooting guard or small forward that plays the point guard position and he's not a center or anything. But even so, he uses that post turnaround fadeaway and that one-legged Dirk fadeaway very effectively in the post. His footwork really separates him and makes him that much more deadly in the post to score. And just another option, another way this guy can score on you. He can score on you in every single way possible. From the three-point range, as I said, he also has somewhat of a mid-range game, post turnaround fadeaway, or when he gets to the basket, he can finish around you with very crafty layup. And not to mention, to tie in his whole offensive game, he's also an amazing passer and makes his teammates way better. When you just watch Luka Doncic out there in the regular season and even in the playoffs, you see him getting wide open shots for his teammates. If they hit him or not, that's up to them, I guess, but Luka is getting them wide open shots consistently. Luka just really needs that sidekick, that superstar that he can, or at least star that he can have as a number 2 option and help him out at least a little bit. Preferably, if Porzingis was able to improve and go back to what he was on the New York Knicks, that would be a perfect option for Luka Doncic. But if not, it would be very difficult to move on from Porzingis because of his contract. Well, let's just say they do move on from him. You would ideally want to find another power forward to pair up with Luka Doncic, because now you can run the pick and roll, the pick and pop with that guy, and just now you're very effective and very deadly in the pick and roll. Obviously, the absolute perfect guy they can potentially get would be Anthony Davis, but that would never happen. But if it was Luka and Anthony Davis, that would be extremely lethal. But it would never happen, as I said. But let me know what you guys think in the comments. Do you think Luka Doncic, if he were to get help, could potentially win an NBA championship? Or do you think Luka Doncic won't get any more help and won't win? But anyways, I hope you guys enjoyed the video, and if you did enjoy, please leave a like and subscribe and hit that post notification bell. It really helps me out a lot. Until the next time, peace out, guys.